Right, let's get down to business with the wild boar. So I'm standing here. Wild boar are actually the biggest pest that we have in our vineyards. So this is what we do to try and prevent the wild boar coming into our vineyards. Now I'm at 350 meters, so this vineyard is pretty susceptible to wild boar. They really like it. In local language, it's actually called cago pork, which means the wild boar latrine. So they love it so much here. So what we've done, as it's one of the last vineyards that we harvest, and it's one of the last vineyards to be harvested actually in the village. So that means by the mid-October, there's not many grapes left. And so the wild boar sort of congregate on this vineyard here. So what we've done is actually put up a fence. So I'll show you here. There's a permanent fence. Okay, and then on the other side of that, we've got an electric fence as well to try and keep them out. It's not on, Nikki, just reassuring you, the electric fence is not on at the moment. She got a bit of a shock on one of them. But if you just imagine, even to get these poles into the ground, it's so stony. So Jean-Marc had to come with a digger first of all, and then it took them 2 days just to knock the posts in this, it's half a hectare, into the ground because of the stone. So even that is hard work. So anyway, this helps to keep the wild boar out. It is quite efficient. Sometimes they do even get through the 2 fences. There are other ways of keeping wild boar out. I don't know if any of you have heard of them. One of them, and this could be quite useful, one of them is you're meant to put human hair and scatter it around the vineyard, on the outside of the vineyard, and that's meant to keep the wild boar away. The other one that I've heard is you're meant to wee in tin cans on each corner of the vineyard. I don't think I'll be doing that one. So let's have a look at the grapes and why the wild boar love it so much. So I'm in the Ode department, and the Ode department, the population is 360,000 people, and there are about the same amount of wild boars. So we're hugely overpopulated with wild boars, and the population has just increased over the past 20 years. It's just really shot up. I think that's because they're hunting less as well, so less people are out there hunting. But they are a real pest. They actually come in, I'm trying to show you 2 things at once. I'll finish the wild boar story. They actually come in at this time of year. Oh, Jean-Marc told me to come to this vineyard because he's actually ploughed it and he's cut the grass, and he said, take them up there today. It's all really beautiful and tidy. So they are a tidy vineyard. So the wild boar at this time of year, they would come into the vineyard and they would sort of root around looking for snails and worms to eat. But literally, it can look like it's actually been ploughed when the wild boar, after the wild boar have been in. So let's look at this. So there's a big clue here. So I can have people's hair. That's great, very much. If you put it in a little bag, when everybody goes to the hairdressers, just send me your bags of little envelopes of hair, and I could try it out in one of the vineyards and actually put it there. No, it's not Carignan. Right, here we go. So it's on wires. That's a little bit of a clue. This is about 45 years old. And the leaves are what I call between Carignan and between the Grenache. So you could have said either and been, yes, it's Syrah, or been quite close, but this is actually the Syrah grape variety. You can tell when the leaves first come out because they have a lovely pinky tinge on the top here. So lovely pinky colour. And then the leaves slightly indented, but not as indented as the Carignan, but more indented than the Grenache. Again, a sort of embossed, but not as embossed as the Carignan. And then on the back here, and this one we've just got slight down, but as they get more mature, the leaves, no down on the back at all. So that's the Syrah grape variety. So Syrah, this vineyard produces Fitou, the appellation Fitou. So that was the first. And look at this soil. So we've been talking about the terroir, and here, look at this lovely, this is real limestone with some clay in there. So it retains the moisture, but it drains too. So this is really a perfect, it's a lovely, lovely soil for my little retirement for the vines. My little retirement home. So let's go down, see what we can see down here. Look at the other great varieties. And wild boar hunting, apparently it dates back to Greek times, ancient Greece, where they used to put nets around an area and then flush out the wild boar with dogs, and then they'd spear them once they'd been caught. Poor little wild boars. Today, it's changed slightly in the village of Touchon, but in the village of Touchon, what they do now, it's an organised hunt, so you can't shoot, a wild boar. So you can't shoot wild boar by yourself. You have to go with an organised hunt. So everybody's posted. The hunters are actually posted, and they're posted on ladders, little platforms, and they're not meant to move off that platform. And then they have the dogs. There's a guy who looks after the dogs, and he has a trumpet. So he blows the trumpet to herd his dogs, and the dogs flush out the wild boar towards the hunters. And Dad, if you're awake there in Ashby de la Zouche, the first time my dad met Jean-Marc was when Jean-Marc invited him on a wild boar hunt down here in Touchon. And you know how much Jean-Marc likes his food. Well, there was a bit of a lost in translation. I think I translated it badly for my dad. And my dad forgot to take any food. So not only did he spend the whole day on a cold, blustery Toche mountain with this French guy who'd only met for the first time, but when it came to lunchtime, he didn't have anything to eat either. And Jean-Marc, he loves his food, but he very kindly shared his, I think it was a tin of tuna, if I remember right, Dad, a tin of tuna with my dad. So that was the first meeting. But yeah, they go out all day. So in Touchon, they hunt 3 times a week, on a Wednesday, Saturday and Sunday. The hunting season finished in the end of March this year, so it was prolonged because there were just so many wild boar. It's just hundreds, and we just can't get rid of them. So hunting was prolonged. They were able to go out until the 31st of March this year. Right, I was just, this little vine attracted me. I don't know why, I wasn't meant to be showing you this one, but here we go. So let's have a look at the leaves. So yeah, I think I know what this is. So if you spread the leaf out, you can see it's a bit wind damaged here. So quite wind damaged, but if you spread it out, it's sort of like a plate. It's lovely and round. You see that? Lovely and round. It's quite waxy on the top. It's quite smooth on the top. So we may be thinking Grenache. But then when we turn it over, look at that. Yuck. It's not that attractive, is it? But little hairs. So here, no, it's not pure Grenache, is it, Paul? It is hairy Grenache. Oh, Nikki, you missed what my dad forgot to take his lunch with him. Yeah, it's hairy Grenache. That's it. This is hairy Grenache. So, I forgot to say the reception might be a bit dodgy up here. I am sort of halfway up the mountain, and sometimes it's not that clear, the reception. Also, sometimes with Instagram, you have to sort of log out and come back in again if the picture goes. I just carry on. So whatever happens, I'm still here. And if it does completely go, you can watch it on catch up. So these are my 110-year-old vines here. We're now in the Carignan and Grenache part of the vineyard. So these are they're 100-year-old Carignan and Grenache, and then we've filled in just with young Grenache plants here, just to fill in the holes. So you may wonder what people use wild boar for. As there's so many, it'd be great to find a really good use for it. Well, my mother-in-law makes a wonderful wild boar stew. Absolutely fabulous. Imagine a nice bit of wild boar that's been feeding on the rosemary and thyme in the vineyards, and it's marinated in Fitou and then cooked. It's marinated for 24 hours and then cooked in Fitou. It's absolutely delicious. And bay leaves in there. What else can we do with wild boar? You can make hairbrushes, or they were badgers, weren't they, for the shaving brushes, but definitely you can get wild boar hairbrushes. And then locally they had a very good use for it. Somebody put a wild boar skin over the radar for speeding. That was on the D611, for anybody who knows that, between Prades and Perpignan. Somebody actually put a wild boar skin over the radar, the speed trap. And the gendarmes had an inquiry, I think this was a couple of years ago, had an inquiry, and they concluded that it must have been a hunter, and they closed the case. So lots of uses for wild boar. Okay, this is, you see that dew on here? See the, yeah, early morning wet. That's not great for mildew because it's about 17 degrees here already. You've got water, it's perfect again for mildew. So we are going to be out tomorrow protecting the vines again. It's less sensitive now, that it's hardier now that the flowers have almost fallen off and we're actually getting the grains. You see there? Lovely bunches. So right, so you're all going, what's the grape variety? And I was rambling on. So lovely plate shape. Turn it over. Are they going to be or not? There are slight hairs, aren't they? I thought I'd found one. So I think, again, this is a, let's have a look. That's a young one. Yeah, that's definitely, look, turn this over. That's definitely Liadonner. So Liadonner Palette, the hairy Grenache. I was so trying to find you one. I will. So it's always like a big mixture. And like I've just proved, you can't tell between a Grenache and a hairy Grenache until you get right up close to it. Just have another look. And we've had wild boar. Actually, we have met a couple of wild boars. You do see them when you're driving around at dusk. They come out and they just sort of saunter across the road, but they can do big damage to your car if you do hit them. They seem to just sort of run off afterwards, but they can write off a car quite easily. And also, we've actually had a wild boar in our winery one day. So a wild boar, just a little young one, just sort of ran into the winery and had a look and then ran out again. That's quite sweet. And we did have a wild boar caused quite a bit of damage at the local garage as well. Just got in and sort of, I think it got caught inside and tried to get out and sort of ram-raided the door. So we do see them quite often in the vineyards. So it's coming up to 8:45 now. I was just showing you this. You can see we're at all different stages of the grapes in the vines, but here you can see you've actually got the little grains have formed there, so that's what will turn into the grapes. So next week when we have a look, we'll be able to tell if those of you watching last week, we learnt about coulieu, and coulieu is the fruit set. So next week we'll be able to see how successful the fruit set has actually been, especially on the Grenache, because that's hypersensitive. So just a few more, and look at all stages here. So of flowering. So I just got a call came through, but I've got rid of them. So I hope you're still there. Is everybody still there? Give me a thumbs up if you're still there. Right, let's have a look at your questions. Lots of questions in here. You obviously liked. Oh, let's look at the view, listen to the birds while I have a look. Yeah, thumbs up. Thanks, Melissa. What size are the wild boar? There's a question from Liam. What size? Well, they can be anything from obviously little tiny babies called marcassins. They have stripes on. You're not allowed to hunt little tiny baby ones if they have stripes. But they get up to about 120 kilos. They're quite regularly shot, 120 kilo ones in the village of Touchon. So they can be pretty big. And then you can get the mega wild boars as well, which will go up to about 180. Hugh, question on the weather. What's the highest temperature at this time of year? Hugh, it's about, at this time of year, it depends. You can have really hot days, like up in the 30s almost, or you can have a day like today. This is more typical, and it's about 17, 18, perhaps going up to 23, 24 in the afternoon. Another one from Hugh. Do wild boar make a good dinner or two? They definitely do. Wild boar stew is absolutely delicious. Wild boar pate too. That's not bad either. Again, my mother-in-law makes a lovely one. And if you wash it down with a glass of Fitou, Domaine Jones Fitou, it's just absolutely gorgeous because it's sort of got that bouquet garni aromas to it. Nikki, Good to see you here. Do they have a preference over grape? Yeah, they're very picky. Wild boar are really picky on the grape variety that they eat. So this vineyard actually gets attacked because it ripens so late. So as I said, it's the only vineyard that's left. So they will eat anything in here. So Syrah, Grenache, Carignan. But their favourite is definitely the Muscat grape, that deliciously sweet Muscat grape. They absolutely adore it. And they can devastate a vineyard overnight, as I found out in my vineyard in Moree when I just started. Let's have a look. Oh, this is a little fact from Julia. Did anybody know that wild boar were responsible for 1,000 car accidents in Tuscany? So we're not alone in our problem with wild boar. And yeah, you can actually sort of smell them sometimes when you're walking around the vineyard. You get that sort of very animally smell, and you think, perhaps there's a wild boar lying, because they're sleeping at the daytime, so they just come out at night. And just a final one from Nikki on the wild boar. Have they hurt any of the local people? Since I've been here, so I've been in the village now for 27 years, I've never heard of anybody being actually hurt by a wild boar. I know they can be pretty scary, obviously, during the hunting season, and they can sort of go and attack. What you need to do, somebody told me, you just clap your hands and it runs the other way. Not sure about that one. Or the other thing is you run up a tree. I think I'll go for running up a tree myself. So nobody's actually been hurt. I know that there have been a few hunting accidents, so like linked to wild boar hunting, but not actually caused by the wild boar. And there have been a few incidents of people touching electric fences, Nikki, that were made for the wild boar. Anyway, so here we are. It was a lovely little ramble today, and I'll see you all tomorrow. So same time and a different vine.